So what is in space? In space is an installation that questions the emotional response we have to interior and exterior spaces and which space defines the other. Main themes of the project are interior, exterior, emotion, and experience. Each of them plays a vital role and they affect each other. By experiencing a space, we respond with an emotion. Well, the aim of the project is to disturb the traditional perception of spaces and how do we emotionally respond to them. It should make people think of what a space can be and show that it can be much more or much less. Space is not always about practicality because we not always only do things in a space, but space is also about being. We also think, feel, and contemplate. Therefore, the aim of the project is to highlight these aspects of the space. My work was always strongly influenced by architecture, black and white photography, where the strong contrasting light creates three-dimensional spaces, and then art compositions mainly from the modernist era, such as from Laszlo Moholy-Nagy. Other artists that I'm inspired by is Olafur Eliasson, S. Devlin, or Richard Serra. Mind mapping and finding my direction was my first step. At the beginning I thought that I will be focusing on creating three-dimensional tiles in order to expand the possibilities of walls. But as I started proceeding with my project and making models, I found the idea of space much more interesting than I found the idea of making 3D tiles. This was mainly due to how it made me feel. I really felt like pursuing this direction will enable me to express much more profoundly what I'm feeling. I was always fascinated by the difference of the way interior and exterior is perceived. There seems to be a big difference and I did not always understand why. I started to question what does it essentially mean to be in a space and what does space mean or what it can mean. The moment of transition from interior to exterior or vice versa was the strongest moment I was mesmerized by. It is a quick moment when we change the way we feel, and I think that that moment is what powered the entire project from start to finish. It is important to stress that at the beginning it was really hard for me to explain what I want to achieve by words. It was a pure feeling I had inside that I needed to transform into a tangible object. This became clearer once I started making models in Rhino and creating my first installation. I think that my first installation really subconsciously defined my direction. I started making more models based on my compositions and exploring the emotional effect they had. It was necessary to start defining what kind of emotions I want to work with. At first it was more about dominance, mystery, and darkness, but as I was developing my ideas further, it became much more about focusing on the contrast interior and exterior spaces provide. One of the most defining moments of the project was adding thread into one of my models. That really made me think of how thread could create illusions of a space and hide or reveal spaces. By making more designs and playing with the thread, I reached a point where I decided to use cube-like forms as they are the most understood forms of a space. The final idea is a structure made up of three key elements: rationality, irrationality, and dreaminess. The rational aspect is represented by the rigid structure. As mentioned, cubic spaces are the ones that we've used for centuries and it is something that we understand the most. Further, the structure is built on logic and physical abilities of the materials. Everything in the structure has its place because of applying critical thinking and reasoning. Irrationality is expressed by disturbing the rhythms of spaces and its perception. Generally, when entering a building, we understand the rhythm and disposition of the interior. Foyers, corridors, walls, doors, rooms. In my structure, there is no specific rhythm. It is based on emotional response to the created spaces and challenging the conventional thinking of interior or exterior spaces. Irrationality is also expressed through the choice of color, again, based on the feeling it creates. Dark equals mysterious and discreet, just like the exterior can be. Bright and rich, visible and joyous, colors of comfort, white, pure, clear, certain. Dreaminess closes the loop. It is evident that spaces like these are surreal, They cannot exist in the real world, and therefore I want to highlight the fact by placing the whole structure into water. There is no place for a house in the water if it does not float.